Next tonight, it is a worry for many parents. How much time is your child spending online? Well, a study by the World Health Organization suggests a sharp rise in problematic social media use and gaming amongst young people in Scotland. It compared self-reported data from 11 to 15-year-olds across 44 countries. Here are some of the findings. 13-year-old Scottish boys reported the highest rates of daily gaming at 60%. The study average was 34%. Scotland has also seen a notable increase in problematic social media use among 13-year-old girls. This has gone from 11% in 2018 to 22% in 2022. Our science and innovation correspondent Laura Goodwin has been talking to some teenagers about their online habits.
I quite like the funny videos on like Instagram and TikTok.
Probably playing my PS5.
Instagram. Yeah, I would check Instagram and TikTok the most.
Probably open Snapchat to see if I have any new messages or anything like that.
Probably TikTok and Instagram.
Maybe around like 3 to 4 hours, but you know, it's obviously not good for me, so I'm trying to decrease that number.
Maybe like 4 or 5 hours, but like I know that's probably a bit too much, and I do try and keep it down.
It is a reality that a significant portion of young people's lives is now spent online. But how do we compare with other teens around the world? The World Health Organization surveyed 280,000 young people across 44 different countries. Around 4,500 young people in Scotland took part. It found that 13-year-old boys in Scotland reported one of the highest rates of daily gaming across all countries surveyed. 15-year-old girls reported higher rates of continuous online contact than the study average, and the data indicates a notable increase in problematic social media use amongst 13-year-old girls in Scotland.
So we use a specific scale to measure problematic social media use, the social media disorder scales. It's got 9 items which looks at different aspects of the extent to which a person's social media use might interfere with other aspects of their life, for example. So whether it stops them from taking part in other activities, whether it interferes with relationships with friends and families, whether they have to lie about how much time they're spending on social media, for example.
Access to mobile phones, connectivity and school policies around mobile phone use are some of the reasons researchers suggest there might be differences between the countries surveyed. But campaigners say big tech companies have a part to play too.
A lot of the issues that we're talking about in the report could have been safeguarded against if tech companies had age-gated their platforms. So the big changes that we saw during the pandemic, as most people watching, I think, will be aware, many of these platforms have a lower age rating of 13, but none of those platforms have been age gated. So children have been able to just access those, and that needs to change. That should have changed by now.
While gaming and social media can be a positive and enjoyable part of young people's lives, the report authors say they hope their study can help inform education strategies to help tackle what can be the more problematic aspects of life online. Laura Goodwin, BBC News.
Well, Sam Rice is with us now. He's from Kids for Now, a group which campaigns to delay children having access to smartphones. Sam, thank you so much for coming in tonight. This research will come as no surprise to you, I assume.
Yeah, year on year we see the statistics continuing to get worse and worse on the online harms to children and on the usage, which is what this is about. But the advice and the recommendations of the report are the same that they've been for more than a decade now. And I just think it's not working. The advice hasn't changed, but the problem just keeps getting worse and worse. So something's not working. And the way I see it, it's kind of like the fire safety triangle. We've always talked about regulation. There's been a lot of talk about the Online Safety Act, which is great and will help. There's talk about digital literacy, so educating children how to be safe online, and families too. And that's great, that's really important. But those are 2 things, and we need a 3rd thing, which is parents need to understand they need to moderate children's access to these devices and to social media. They need to restrict or withhold giving their children smartphones, really.
Yeah, well, talk us through that process, because that's something you've been involved in, is encouraging parents to hold off so that it's a later start with smartphones. How does that work? How successful has it been?
So I first came across this idea from America a couple of years ago, and I learned about an organisation in America called Wait Till 8th, and the lady who started that up, she just started talking to parents in her school, in her kids' class, and just asking them how did they feel about smartphones. Were they happy about you know, giving their kids smartphones and social media. And she was quite surprised. She found that most of them shared her concerns and weren't really happy with it. So together they agreed to just wait and not give them smartphones until they were about 14. And then the idea took off and it became quite popular in America. So I tried to start something like that here. And now, a couple of years later, we've got hundreds of thousands of parents in the UK now have joined the smartphone-free childhood movement. You know, that's not all, I didn't bring that about on my own, but it's absolutely fantastic to see this is really starting to take off in the UK too.
How do you answer that age-old question, though, of the side of it that kids might feel excluded, that they might feel left out, you know, that it can also be really difficult trying to have, especially the way that the world is now, to do this, to hold off?
That's exactly what this is about, and that's the reason why we've got into this problem, is that parents don't want their kids to be left out, they want them to be popular, and they go along with what everyone else is doing. But that's a collective action trap, so it needs a collective solution. So parents need to talk to each other and agree together before it gets to that stage. Before all the kids in the class have a smartphone, parents need to agree, at least some of them. It doesn't have to be all of them. At least, you know, a third of the parents in a school, if they agree not to give their kids a smartphone, that breaks that peer pressure and really makes a difference for the kids and helps those parents to keep their kids off those devices.
What have you seen the difference being then for you? Because you're a father yourself. What would you say the advantages are to doing this, to a smart free phone childhood?
Well, my oldest is 10, nearly 11. He's a boy. My youngest is my daughter, she's 8, and I already see some effects. And even though, you know, neither of them have smartphones and they're not on social media, and we're quite strict about what video games they play and all of that, but we still have to deal with the effects because all their friends, my son, all of his friends spend a lot of time playing video games. He tells me that's all they talk about, and that has an impact on him because that's all his friends are talking about, and he doesn't necessarily play those games. Or some of his friends play games that are rated 18 and we don't let him do that, and he feels left out. My daughter, she's, I think, already being impacted by some of the things her friends are picking up from social media. They might not necessarily have smartphones, but I'm sure some of the things she's been talking about to do with the body image.
It's there already from a really early age.
At the age of 8.
I'm so sorry that we have run out of time, Sam, but thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
For joining us tonight on The Nine.
Great.